These are the two pre-constructed decks that were released in Stompatrons of Invincible Wrath, that's the 6th set of Duel Masters, and they are called the Disruptive Forces deck and the Block Rockers deck respectively, featuring Shuka, Duke of Amnesia and Charmilia the Enticer on the covers. In this video I'm going to be unboxing both of these beauties and then pitch them in the duel against one another to see which one comes out on top. Let's just get straight to the point and unbox them, starting with Disruptive Forces. The packaging seems to be original. It has the As Seen on Cartoon Network sticker and this little plastic thing that you find on the original pre-constructed decks. So I am optimistic that this time we didn't buy a fake one like in the last video. Right, now that the foil is removed, let's take a look at the packaging. There's of course Shuka here and it says includes alternate card art. And on the right we have an ad for other Duel Masters products released in this set. We have the 2-player starter set and booster packs, but of course we don't have anything to do with these in this video. Then there's some text here, but what's interesting is the backside, which just says Disruptive Forces deck, and the description is Fire and Darkness Civilization spell the end for your opponent. This fast and troublemaking deck discards cards, destroys creature, and sends out slayers and speed attackers to knock your opponent down and take him out. So it does seem like it will be some sort of control-based deck, which is always interesting to see in these precons. Tissues for opponent's tears not included, that's kind of funny. Key premium cards, Shuka, Duke of Amnesia. If Shuka is destroyed, both players discard their hands. And the contents of this is a ready-to-play 40-card team deck, including an alternate card premium card, which I assume is the Shuka that they were talking about, and the customized strategy insert. Right, let's just open this bad boy up and see what it's all about. This is DMAX membership offer. We don't really care about that, so I will just put it aside. And the deck, and of course the fun part, the strategy insert, which is always a good read. These are the standardized civilizations descriptions for darkness and fire respectively. The deck list, which we're not gonna look at because we want to see the cards as they're being unboxed. And of course, are you a new player? Take the starter set. And what is a theme deck? We see these things written in every theme deck that we've opened so far. So, playing the Disruptive Forces deck, I'm not going to be reading this entire thing, but if you want to, feel free to do so. But in essence, it says this deck will never give your opponent a break. With it, you can start quickly summoning creatures and attacking, then follow that up with a triple whammy to your opponent, destroying his creatures, making him discard from his hand, and making him lose his mana cards. They have mana burn as well in this deck? That's interesting. They probably have something like Engineer, Kipo, and Bombasaur, or something like that. After you come at him from all of these directions, your opponent will be so dizzy it will be easy for you to deliver the finishing blow. This deck starts out with good old small creatures. Speed attackers work well with your masses of creatures, and now that you have your opponent on his heels, make him lose his creatures and hand. This deck punishes your opponent for destroying your creatures. Cards such as Bombasaur and Engineer Kipo, that we have just guessed, make your opponent suffer if he manages to destroy them. Alright, in case that's not enough, more cards in the deck help your attacks. This deck can easily change to meet many challenges. Remember to hit your opponents early. After getting out some early creatures, keep up the pressure. And of course, what's written in every team deck. Once you get the hang of playing with a Disruptive Forces deck, change your deck by putting cards from booster packs, which of course we are not going to do in this video. Right, let's just get to the deck itself, flipping it over, and alright, let's first of all remove the packaging, I guess. And flipping it over, we have, of course, the shiny foil, the quote-unquote alternate card art for this set. We have Shuka, Duke of Amnesia. When this creature is destroyed, each player discards his hand. And all the mysteries of the universe, the eternal questions of past, present, and future, pretty much boil down to this. How do you like my spiffy new cape? Very good. Right. And they did say that we would have some speed attackers, so we have Pyrofighter Magnus, 2 of them, We have Choya the Unheeding. It's a human, 2 mana for 1000, power attacker plus 1000. Whenever this creature becomes blocked, no battle happens. Right, some removal and a couple Proclamation of Death. Crisis Boulder, they did say that, it doubles as removal plus mana disruption. Oh, and we have Armor Decimator Valkyzer. I was not expecting to see this in this deck. So it's a human evolution, which does make this previous card that we got, Choya the Unheeding. Since it's a human, it increases its value a little bit. And when this guy is put into the battle zone, he can destroy one of your opponent's creatures that has power 4000 or less. Then we have Bomberzor, of course, and he's destroyed. Each player gets to destroy 2 mana. Creeping Plague, Bombat General of Speed, some more speed attackers. Then we have Cutthroat Skytar, which is one of my personal favorite cards. It's a speed attacker that can only attack creatures, but it is a 3 for 5000s, so he can be used for repeated removal. Migasa, Adept of Chaos, so it's just more human bait. Scheming Hands, which can take a card from the opponent's hand, and we have 2 of them. We also have 2 Locomotivers, so a lot of discard in this deck. Lupa, Poison Tip Dole can turn some things into Slayers. Phantom Dragon's Flame, more removal. Legionary Lizard, nice card, it's a speed attacker that can turn other things into speed attackers. Explosive Dojo, just a 3 mana human, but it has increased value because of the human evolution. Then we have Rikabuda Dismantler, 3 of them, wow, okay, so far we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 speed attackers, which is not a bad number at all. Engineer Kipo for more mana disruption. Snake Attack, wow, okay, so if you can manage to get a board of early things, small things like, Engineer Kipo and such, you can play Snake Attack as a finisher and just turn them all into double breakers and end the game that way. Death Smokes for more removal, Ghost Touch for more discard, Horrid Worm for early presence and discard. I really like this deck so far, actually. Graining Axe for some Slayer, Jeweled Spider for some more of that early presence that you can maybe turn into something with Snake Attack, and same can be said for Lone Tier. Right, so this deck is interesting. There is a duality here. You can go with some early creatures and then try to finish with Snake Attack, and you can transition into a control-y game with Horrid Worm discards, Ghost Touch, Locomotivers, and Proclamation of Death and removal to kind of beat out your opponent that way. So I do like the way this deck is constructed. We'll have to see what's in the other one as well to see how they stack up against each other, but this is definitely not a bad deck. I kind of like it, and it's probably one of the better pre-constructed decks that we've opened so far, I would say. But anyway, let's just gather all of these up and move on to the next one. The second deck, Block Rockers. I mean, I can just guess from the name of this that there's gonna be a shit ton of blockers from it, but we'll have to see what the win condition of the deck is, right? Let's just quickly get this opened up, if I can manage to do that. Alternative title for this video, Idiot Struggles to Open Children's Trading Cards. There we go. Okay, all good. Alright, Block Rockers includes alternate card art, which will probably be the Charmeleon that we see here. Then of course on the sides we have the same as before, 2-player starter set and booster packs and ads. And on the back, Block Rockers deck, Light, Water and Nature Civilizations. So that's interesting because the previous deck, right, it was Fire and Darkness, and this one has literally all of the others, Light, Water and Nature. So between these two decks, all of the civilizations are featured, which is always nice to see. Right, Light, Water and Nature Civilizations combine to set up a good defense with blockers. Slow down your opponent and return his creatures to his hand. It was capped, so I had to shout it out. Then use tons of tapping creatures to do tap dance on his hand. Next step, game over. This kind of reminds me of that meme with, play blockers, step 2, question mark, step 3, profit, game over. You are the champion, my friend. Okay, and here, of course, it says key card, Charmeleon the Enticer. Use Charmeleon to search your deck for another creatures to put in your hand. Right, let's just open this up and see what we get in here. Of course, we get the DMAX membership, which we can put aside for now, the deck, and the strategy insert. Let's see what we find here. So, Block Rocker's deck, again, the descriptions for light, water, and nature civilizations. You can read this out if you so desire. The deck list, which we are not going to read now, and on the back, playing the Block Rocker's deck, which actually this section is much smaller than the other one, or at least looks that way. There's way more text here than there is here, right? But anyway, playing the Block Rocker's deck, this deck should help you quickly set up your defense. Your opponent can break through. While he tries, you can bring out some nasty creatures that have the tap ability. Start tapping away, that should bring your opponent to his knees. Once you have total control, your creatures can go in and finish your opponent. Right, so that's kind of the idea. You set up a big blocker wall to protect your tapped creatures, then you use your tapped creatures to get a big advantage. We'll have to see how that works out. This deck has a good variety of blockers, of course it does. Is good at returning creatures to players' hands. Cards such as Spiral Gate, Shock Hurricane, and Aqua Surfer. Those are not bad cards. Arm yourself with the knowledge you need. What does that mean? Adomis the Oracle can help you learn what you need to know. Look at your opponent's shields first. Oh wow, okay. That doesn't seem like something that you would necessarily want to do in a blocker deck, but okay. Once you slow down your opponent and set up your defenses, use your tappers. Chentang, Vizier of Blades, to tap your opponent's smaller creatures, right? We'll see all of these creatures as we go through the deck. Choosing which cards to put in your mana zone is important, of course. This deck wins by outlasting your opponent, right? So I haven't filmed this yet, but I can already look at the duration of this video right here, and it's probably gonna be like 1 hour or something, because this deck aims to stall out games, right? So it does win by outlasting opponents, and of course once you get the hang of the deck, change your deck by putting in cards from booster packs, which we are not going to do in this video. So, flipping over the deck, actually let's remove the wrapping first. And now flipping over the deck, we have of course Charmilla the Enticer, which is a really cool looking card, Snow Fairy, and it comes in foil. Instead of having this creature attack, you may tap it to use its ability, which is search your deck for a creature and put it into your hand. So this card, if left unchecked, can generate a lot of advantage, which is probably why it was put in this deck, because you can protect it behind the blocker wall and then just get a lot of things into your hand. Then continuing the tap theme, we have Bliss Totem Avatar of Luck, which can put 3 mana cards from your graveyard to your mana zone. Of course it's a very slow card, it costs 6 mana and then you need to wait a turn to use its effect. And you also need to hide it behind the blocker wall so it doesn't die. But that said, if this deck aims to stall out games, then it's a perfect fit, I would say. Then we have Dimension Gate, which just searches for a creature. Fairy Life to ramp up, 3 Fairy Lives to ramp up, okay. Mighty Bandit, Ace of Thieves, can give one of your creatures 5000 power. Sea Slug, 8 mana, 6000 blocker and can't be blocked. So this is an interesting card. Okay, it's obviously bad, 8 mana for 6000 is not great, but that said, you put this card into the battle zone, it's a blocker, it can stall out, and then when it's time to go and finish the game, it can attack and can't be blocked. So, you know, it kind of fits with the theme of the deck. Shock Hurricane can return a bunch of things to hand. Neon Cluster, I used to love this card as a kid. It can draw 2 cards every single turn if you can keep it alive, behind the blocker wall of course. 2 Aqua Surfers, Hazard Crawler for more blockers, Thrash Crawler for more blockers, Energy Streams, 2 of them, Spiral Gate, 3 of them. So we have 3 Spiral Gate and 2 Aqua Surfers. So I would assume that this deck is quite good at handling early aggression and such. We have Sopian, 2 of them can make something unblockable. 2 Madrillion Fish, more blockers. Ooh, and the big deadly blocker, Psyforce Aurora Elemental. It's a blocker, it can attack as a double breaker, and when you put it into the battle zone, you get a spell from your mana zone to your hand. Then we have Subskin Twilight Guardian, Cosmogold Spectral Knight, Protective Force, Adomis the Oracle, Chentang Vizier of Blades, tap ability can tap something and then your creatures can go at it. Chekiku, Vizier of Endurance, 2 of them, a blocker that doesn't die when blocking, more blockers and more blockers, of course. So this deck has a shit ton of blockers. You want to set up a blocker wall, and then you want to generate a whole bunch of advantage with tap abilities such as Charmilla, Bliss Totem, and Neon Cluster. I don't know where I put him, there he is. And then once it's time to go, you can go with your finishers like Sea Slug, I guess, and Psyforce. So it's not a bad deck, it's interesting. I think it's very good at repelling aggressive decks, but we will see how it does against this deck. I'll just gather up all of these cards. So there we have our 2 decks. I will go ahead and sleeve them up and then pitch them in a best of 3 duel against each other to see which deck is the better one, at least in a straight up one-on-one battle, from the 2 pre-constructed decks released in Stompatrons. Stay tuned to see that.